This is a review of Fearmonium, available now on PC, Xbox One, Series S and X, PlayStation 4 and 5, and Nintendo Switch. I played through the Xbox version using a Series S. The first thing I want to discuss is the story. The story plays out through some great looking comic book panel scenes and through NPC dialogue. And just a disclaimer, as shown during the game's startup screens, the story does cover some darker themes, things like abuse, bullying, and depression, just to name a few. So if these sound like topics that would make you uncomfortable, then I would recommend steering clear, as these darker themes play out over the course of your playthrough. I often think that any form of entertainment is at its best when it makes you feel something. Whether that's music or movies, games, whatever it is. When entertainment touches you enough to feel an emotion, that is when it's really connecting with you on a deeper level. And while some of the story that plays out didn't really make much sense at certain points, there is one thing this game did manage, and it's about the highest praise I could possibly give without going into specifics and spoiling anything, and that is, without question, this game made me feel, and I'll leave it at that. Now I want to briefly draw your attention to the art design. If it hasn't already caught your attention, this game is beautifully drawn and animated. The art design was a highlight for me and was very enjoyable to look at throughout my entire playthrough. There's a wide variety of enemies, bosses, environments, and just a lot of detail poured into every ounce of what's on display here. As far as the gameplay goes, it's a metroidvania. You will slide, double jump, dodge, and whack your way through a fairly large map. There's a variety of upgrades to acquire that'll improve your health, stamina, and attack power. There's various abilities and items you'll acquire so that you can customize your loadout to your tastes. But there is no Symphony of the Night style leveling system here. Exploration is encouraged, as you'll find rewards into every nook and cranny of this intricately designed map. My only real complaint about the map is that it felt very compact to look at when you have most of it explored, but are looking for areas you might have missed. I can say the same about the inventory screen as well. It shows most of the pertinent information, but it does not show your always active passives that you have earned, or some of your collectibles. It only shows your two forms of currency. You'll acquire balloons, which are Fearmonium's form of currency, and enemies will also drop thyroxine, which you can trade in to increase your passive slots. And you'll earn up to 3. You'll start with 1, and you'll earn 2 more by spending your thyroxine. There's a lot to see and do here, so if you opt to stick with the story path without too much outside exploration, you'll more than likely miss quite a bit of content. Fearmonium also does its best to mix up the gameplay with some variety. There's sections where you'll be focused on platforming, box puzzles, minecart riding, and soaring through the skies as a helium balloon. These sections are hit or miss. Some are pretty good, while others I found to be very unenjoyable. I'm looking at you, helium balloon sections. Not a fan of your slippery controls and wonky hitboxes. You will eventually acquire a dash upgrade, which allows you to dash left with LB and right with RB. I always find games that have 2 buttons to manage dashing in the 2 different directions awkward. I would have loved to have seen an option or a toggle to allow for a more classic dash that would allow the dash button to backdash if standing still, or dash in the direction the player is moving. You also cannot dash while crouched, but other than these 2 minor issues I had with the controls, everything else felt great. There's 2 wheels to quickly swap between either your items or your abilities, mapped to the trigger buttons, so you don't need to break up the action with constant menu navigation, which I found to be a nice touch. You will make many visits to Lady Depression, as she serves as your save points and fast travel locations, as well as a consumable shop. There's various clown NPCs that also serve as merchants, and there's even a special NPC near the beginning of the game that you can pay to give you a map marker on where you should head next. This is a very nice inclusion, as it allows you to see where you should head next if you happen to be confused or stuck. I felt like the difficulty had a nice gradual increase to it, but with some of the bosses feeling like a little bit of a difficulty spike. Death in Fearmonium results in reloading your last save and a loss of progress since that last save. So make sure to save often, and well, maybe try not dying, okay? The sound design is pretty good, with the sound of each whack or attack feeling satisfying, but I would consider the music to be overall probably the weakest point of Fearmonium's overall presentation. Maybe I'm just spoiled in Metroidvania games by classic soundtracks from the Castlevania series and Bloodstained, but even other indie titles in the genre like After Image or Eldoran had great soundtracks. So while it was a weak point for me, it's not bad and certainly doesn't hurt the experience at all. Now that I've covered what I think is all of the good, it's time to discuss the bad. There's times where your interaction with your mage ability just does not work as intended. There were more than a few sections where I needed to progress using this, and the way the level was designed caused some unnecessary frustration. There was also some weird behavior during some platforming sections where my character would jitter and slide across a moving platform, resulting in a loss of control. I did encounter a bug one time where it allowed me to walk through some spikes and reach a place I wasn't meant to go without an ability I would acquire later. So I was unable to get back, resulting in a loss of progress as I had no choice but to reload my save. So just to be clear, I thought these were fake spikes when it happened, and it wasn't until I became stuck that I realized it was a bug. I also came across some minor visual bugs that looked a bit weird, but weren't really that big of a deal. So while these smaller issues aside, I did not experience any frame rate dips, crashes, or anything of that nature that would truly affect the time I spent playing through Fearmonium. So now to sum it all up, would I recommend playing Fearmonium? Well, yeah, I would. I really enjoyed playing through the game and unraveling the next bits of the story. I found a lot of what's here to feel very unique in a pretty populated genre. It's more basic in some ways, as you don't have to worry about leveling up, equipping various pieces of armor or weapons and accessories. But what Fearmonium does, it does very well, and I definitely recommend giving it a play if the aforementioned warning about the darker themes doesn't turn you off. I want to thank you, the viewer, for taking the time to watch and listen to my review all the way through to the end. I put a lot of time and effort into making this review the best that I possibly could, as I ended up enjoying this game more than I thought I would. If you liked my review, please consider subscribing, liking the video, and leaving a comment below, as any form of interaction will help me to grow as I continue to focus on covering indie games on my channel. Hopefully I'll see you on the next one, but until then, I hope you have a good one.